Okay, this week is our anniversary,
Woo!
which is really exciting. June
Number
5th.
14.
Number 14. And today we have 14 lessons learned from our marriage. I came up with 7. You came up with 7. We did not collaborate on this.
No.
It's pretty exciting. All right, let's jump into it. This is the Balanced Family Podcast with Ben.
And Jessica, there's a lot to balance when you have a family. Marriage, kids, health, career, while you're trying to balance all the opinions out there on how to do things right.
Today we'll cut through the noise, tackle hard questions, and share stories as we try to get to the heart of the things that really matter. Okay, before we get started, I got a bonus lesson, or not even a lesson. It's an observation about marriage.
Okay.
There are 2 kinds of people in this world. Okay. Those that buy their spouse Apple AirPod Pros for Christmas.
Oh, I know where this is going.
And those that wash them in their blue jeans. And those 2 people marry each other.
Listen, if you would have known us when we first got married, who would have been the person most likely to wash their AirPods?
You.
No, it would have been you.
You've been, it specifically with technology,
Okay, that's
you've been
true.
breaking.
That's true.
Okay, I got you a Kindle for Christmas back when Kindles were like cool. You
I
broke that.
Yep.
I mean, do we even want to talk about cell phones and screens?
We shouldn't talk about
and the
that.
other day, so here's how we do it in our home. I install the screen protectors.
Yes.
Like if we order a new phone, I have to be so quick to make sure I order screen protectors and put those on before it gets to your hands. And the other day I saw your phone on the nightstand.
Yep.
And I don't know, just something about it caught my eye. I was like, Jessica, where is your screen protector? And you're like, oh, it got like cracked. I just took it off. I couldn't see. I was like, you are not allowed to have your phone without a screen protector.
What's really funny is that screen protector you put on, it's already cracked.
Of course it is.
Places.
Well, whenever I said, Jessica, you have to have a screen protector. And you said, no, I don't. I've been going weeks without one.
Don't listen to me.
And you said,
I'm
and I looked at it and your screen was cracked.
I know. I really struggle.
I know.
I did wash my AirPods. It was horrible. Hey, I had to pay for them out of my own money. So
that was a good,
which is funny. You guys might think that I have my own bank account. We could maybe talk about that. I don't, but out of my own money is,
the way we portion
out money.
Well, it's not just technology. It's, I feel like I'm just throwing you under the bus.
That's fine. I threw you under the bus with the whole first date thing. So a few episodes back.
That is
this
true.
This is your turn.
Well, okay. I'm just thinking it's not just technology. It seems like any gift that I get you ends up being broken. And I don't know what this means for our marriage, Jessica. Think about
like what?
Our first Christmas when we were really broke and we went and got each other nice porcelain.
Oh yeah, that thing
coffee
was broken
mugs.
Within like 2 seconds.
Five days later, shattered.
Yeah, it's true.
And then you will find the coolest coffee mugs at a thrift store that are like retro, super unique. My Enneagram 4 in me just loves it. You know, it's going to be broken by Jessica at some point.
It's true.
So I've learned to just not get too attached to things.
Can't get too attached. Hey, I'm really on it in some areas of my life. And I was telling Ben the other day, as I have gotten more mature and have just in general just grown, I'm actually so much less type A even than I used to be. It's like my inner self truly is emerging, and it is a really high functioning type B person who struggles with details like diaper bag may or may not come with me, which I don't have a diaper bag anymore. But I mean, like, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. That's funny. If we're ever out of the house, I'll be like, did you bring, so you're like, no.
Absolutely not. No.
Of course, I'm really bad about that. Like we just went hiking the other day with the girls and it was around water. And somebody always ends up in the water.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this.
No towels. No.
We never bring extra clothes. We never bring towels. Even though like it always happens.
Yeah. So they were wet.
Yeah. And so that's parenthood.
That is parenthood.
But you have a way with things is just very special. And I have plenty of quirks for sure.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
Those are the 2 kinds of people in the world. Okay. So why don't ladies go first? Okay. What were the 7 lessons?
7 things that I came up with?
Yeah, that you learned about.
Okay. Should I just I'll just rapid fire and I'll give explanations? Should I just go,
Yeah.
or should we go back and forth? Like I say one, you say one. What do you think? We have not pre-planned this.
That's not a bad idea.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Because it'll be weird for me to rapid fire.
Well, yeah. But I mean, there's 14 and it's going to take us a bit. So yeah, let's do that. So it's kind of like,
I'll say
you
one.
get a minute each. I get a minute each.
That sounds great.
About each item. And yeah, perfect.
Okay. So my number one first lesson that I learned in our first year of marriage was trust God first. And what I mean by that is I was a very self-reliant person. I still am a very independent person. So I really struggled with the idea of being married and like really fully trusting someone. And I really struggled with like, especially when we first got married, Ben, how should I put this? He just was a little less with it.
Dysfunctional.
He was a little dysfunctional.
Unorganized.
So there was a lot of situations where I was very much like on top of things. I was very organized, seemed to be like had my stuff together more than Ben. And so for me, then to be married to him and then like be asked to actually trust him was just a big leap for me. And I had a really close mentor say, well, you're going about it the wrong way. You aren't trusting him, you're trusting God. And you're trusting God to then work inside of him. And so I didn't really fully understand that even at that moment, right? Because it was kind of a leap of faith for me to even conceptually do that, to say, okay, like I'm going to like really trust God inside of this. And so, but I did. I took the leap of faith, really prayed a lot about Ben and about my frustrations or things that, were difficult. And I can say 14 years later that I not only trust God, but I also very much trust Ben. And that was a work in progress. And that was a massive lesson that I feel like was so valuable for me.
All right. Before I share my first one, I do have another bonus one. And that is women are mysterious. I have definitely learned that lesson in 14 years of marriage. Like women are unpredictable
we're
and
complicated individuals.
But it's what has made marriage fun, honestly. Because I don't know, men are pretty simple. Anyway, keeps me on my toes. That's a bonus one for you out there. But number one, what I wrote down as lessons is never lose hope. Mm-hmm. And I think, especially early on in a marriage, when you have the first like big resistance against each other, like and just big problems, it's easy to feel discouraged and that like your whole world's going to fall apart because you're just like, oh my gosh, like what if this can't work? Like what is going on? How are we going to work through this? Like I remember when we fought like some of those Goliaths early on in our marriage, like it taught me a lesson that like, there's like, we can work through anything as long as both of us are committed to that.
Right.
And I think that's a really important thing we've held on to. And we just have zero, no matter what we face in our marriage today, we never get discouraged.
Yeah. That's true.
We always have hope.
That's true.
What's your number two?
I was always told and heard a lot of people say, don't go to bed angry. And I do not think that is always a good idea.
Huh,
I think
really?
Going to bed angry is sometimes a good idea because nothing good happens at 2 a.m. There is no resolution that will be happening at 2 a.m. And often by that point, you're so amped up emotionally. Like there would be times when I would go to bed angry. And I mean, I'd be angry.
Yeah.
And I would wake up and I would be like, that was so dumb.
Yeah.
And we'd look at each other and I'd be like, I'm sorry. And you would be like, I'm sorry. And we'd be like, do we even need to talk about it? And sometimes we would, but sometimes we'd be like, no, it's not even worth it. Let's just move on.
That is a good tip. I do remember that.
And that was, I just always, and so sometimes going to bed angry, I think is a good idea, especially if it's really late and you're hormonal and you have newborns, for example. Sometimes people just need sleep.
Yeah, and you kind of reset.
And then you reset and then you're like, wow, that was really dumb.
Now, I will say, Jessica, there were some of those fights that you might have gone to bed early and you had insomnia. And then the next morning you like blame me like,
so true.
How'd you sleep last night? Terrible, because of how much you were a jerk last night. And we argued and I couldn't go to sleep and it's all your fault. So that did happen. But anyway, that was a good tip. Okay. My number two is, I need to do my next two because they're kind of like together.
That's allowable.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. I was going to say one lesson is that there's a science to marriage.
Okay.
And then lesson number three, but there's also an art to it. So what I mean by this, there's a science inside of marriage to me is like there are predictable outputs when you have the same inputs. What I mean by that is sacrifice and preferring your spouse. Like when you're in a situation, you can't go wrong by preferring your spouse and just sacrificing and loving them and giving your whole self. Like that always brings peace. That always brings more connection. It always makes them, happier because they see that you really do love them. Love is shown by our actions and not just our words. And marriage really confronts that. Like you have to really love with your actions. And the more that you do that, it is predictable. Like it brings good things. There's almost like a technology to sacrifice. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by there's a science to it. And then I would say there's an art to it because you look throughout your marriage and you see there's just seasons and there's different emphases at different time. Like I remember just times where it's kind of like the spotlight was on me to really change and work through something personally that affected you. And then there would be seasons it was like totally opposite. It was like Jessica was working through something and you coming through that helped you become a better wife. Like there is an art to it where you just, sometimes it's like, it's kind of like that phrase, people will say, you want to give 50-50. And then there's people who say, no, everybody gives 100. I don't even know if that necessarily is true. Well, it is true, but what I'm getting at is that sometimes it feels like one spouse is given 150% right. and the other spouse is given 100% for that particular season because of whatever they're going through. And so I can just see the seasons change inside of our marriage. And that's why it's kind of an art to me. But also to add to that is like when you're younger and less mature, you can get really like self-defining. Well, this is who I am and how I think and what I want, my philosophy and what I think we should do. And like over time in a marriage, you start to just like your spouse's sight of things just kind of starts to blend into yours and you're just more flexible and flow and you're less like rigid about this is who I am and how I live life. And so I love just like the beauty in that inside of a marriage.
All right. I like that. That's nice.
Thanks.
All right. My number 3 is focus on your own issues first. That was a big lesson for me because, I always wanted to talk all about all of the reasons why I was struggling so much was because Ben was so blank, whatever. And it takes a lot of work to really actually look at yourself and be honest about the contribution that you're making to a negative situation or a fight or an argument or just an area of friction in general. So for example, I had to really own up to the fact that while being a stay-at-home mom and going through just a season of having, 3 kids under 4, wow, that was a really difficult season. And there were certain things that Ben would do that would make that season sometimes a little harder for me. I had to be really honest with myself and say, but at the same point, Jessica, you're not really like handling it well either. Like there's some things that you also need to change. I think it's really easy to want to be a victim. And I had to really, that took a lot of work because and I'm thinking about that particular situation and season because that was probably the most difficult season for me because there were so many external things I could have pointed at as to why I was so emotional or why I was so, I would micromanage so bad. I was really controlling in some ways. And there were like plenty of reasons for that, realistic reasons. But I had to really, for me to be able to really overcome and for me to really be able to step into a place of peace and a place of new identity, I had to take an honest look at myself, and that was hard. But when I did, it actually made everything so much smoother, and we were actually able to finally move forward, and so that was great.
That's good. Kind of goes into the science of it is like focus on your issues first. A lot of times that's just the best first step.
Yep.
Why don't you do your number 4 then, since we kind of got out of order?
This kind of goes along with my first one, but prayer is powerful. I think, we're believers and I do believe in the power of prayer. And there's been a lot of There's been a lot of situations where I would be really frustrated at you, and I would, instead of saying something, or I maybe would say something, but knew like me saying this is not really going to change the situation or change Ben. I learned to start praying more and just to pray and ask God, hey, God, like change Ben's heart in this area, like convict him or whatever, or convict me if I'm off. You know, I had to have an open heart to that too.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I had to be open to the fact that maybe I was the one that needed to be adjusted. And man, 10 out of 10 times is like God showed up. And there would be times when you would bring up something, hey, you know, I've been really thinking about it. God's been really putting this on my heart. And I'd be like, really? Interesting. Because I prayed about that. And, you know, in 14 years, I've gotten to see a lot of those. And it's just his only encouraged me to keep praying and only encouraged me to continue to believe in faith for God to really provide me with the things that I need.
Well, and I think I would say equally in the times that you would through prayer realize like something needed to shift inside of you. And it's the same thing with me. Cause I think the way you characterized yourself just there made it sound like you're mad at me and you go pray about it and God fixes me. But no, it's like, it's actually more about the principle of like where you fix your gaze. It's like without God, your gaze is fixed on the flesh, fixed on your spouse's flaws, fixed on your own flaws, filled with shame, filled with all this stuff. It's like there's a science to it. There's a technology of like when you fix your gaze on him, like it just shifts something internally. And that has been a big source of learning to be tolerant and patient and long-suffering like God is. You learn to take your hands off your spouse's issues. And when two people are committed to growing and developing, like it tends to work out. But that's a really powerful one.
I wanted to make a side note too, because I know this is going to probably come up. Someone's going to comment this. What we're talking about here is a very committed relationship in marriage where two people are following God, obviously, or are wanting to be committed to the marriage and are wanting to change.
Absolutely.
There are obviously situations and circumstances where, you know, for example, trusting your spouse fully, or like you had mentioned earlier, like completely dying, you know, to your preference and doing, you know, giving yourself to them. There's obviously situations and circumstances where that would not be appropriate if you're in an abusive relationship or whatever. I just wanted to make sure that we say that, you know. I
mean, we talk about marriage in this podcast, and like the assumption is that it's two people committed to loving each other and growing and changing.
Right.
I mean, this is not a podcast for how to deal with a completely dysfunctional marriage where one partner is like totally MIA inside of the relationship. That's a whole nother topic. That's just
I just wanted to make that
right. No, absolutely.
Comment.
Also on the prayer thing, we have prayed together sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course we pray together a lot, but I mean, in like arguments.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this because Ben would be like, I think, you know, do you want to pray? And I'd be like, sure.
It was like, it was like angry. It's like,
yeah, I guess we should.
Whatever. But so that was always special. But I was, you know, I know other couples that talk about that all the time. I'm like, man, that was always hard for us if we're mad at each other to stop and pray. But that is, it really does diffuse situations.
It does.
And again, fixes your gaze upward. My number 4 was couples need couples. I've learned so much in these 14 years of marriage, listening to other couples that I respect, just talk about their stories, or even going and, you know, over dinner, like talking and learning. And I feel like it's just like, you can learn so much with another couple in the room versus like couples counseling, for instance. There's nothing wrong with couples counseling or going to see a counselor. That actually is needed in a lot of cases. But I like the context of literally 4 people getting to hash out stuff, because you kind of get that collective mind that's more just like organic than just like, I'm the professional counselor giving you like the professional perspective. I've enjoyed that over the years.
Yeah. And I think too, it gives you a wide range of understanding of what a healthy marriage. I think sometimes you can like have expectations, especially like, you know, if you see people with these quote unquote amazing marriages on social media, for example. I've always have really appreciated when we've been with other couples and they start arguing with it. Like, and you have to be comfortable with, you know, but we have like close friends and stuff where, you know, it'll be a little tense and you'll be like, oh, that's normal. Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, you know, you learn to normalize things a little bit more. And I think when you're in like your own little bubble, you can start to believe that, everything is just horrible and no one else struggles like we do. And then you go and you meet with other couples and you're like, oh, okay, we're normal actually. Great.
Yeah. But I am like always on the hunt for things that I see in other people's marriage that I'm like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm like, I like that way he responded to her. I like the way they talked through that little issue. Like, that's interesting. I'm going to go think about that. Like, because when you're interacting with people, you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. And so I enjoy that. Number 5 for you.
Stay connected even when busy. Make the time. No excuses.
Definitely.
If you have time to scroll social media and watch TV, you have time to carve out one night a week to connect with your spouse. Like, how are you doing for real? We talk about this all the time, beating a dead horse, but like a weekly check-in, even when you're busy, you make the time.
Yeah.
And we did that, and it really, really served us well in busy seasons.
Definitely. That one's a necessity. This is funny. So I haven't, the next 2 also go together for mine.
That's fine. I'll allow it.
So my number 5 is that it's a lot harder than I imagined. And then my number 6 was it's a lot better than I imagined. So I'll go back to why it's harder. I had no idea. Like I always wanted to be married. To me, it was always just like having my soulmate, my companion, and just like somebody that shared my passions.
Very type 4 Enneagram of you.
Yeah. I mean, I just love the idea of just like a lifelong partner that I just had shared life with, and we did everything together. I was a romantic. It was just like every moment we're just staring in each other's eyes. And it's like, man, marriage is work. It is so much harder than I thought. And it's like the day in, day out grind. And you got to be on. Like, to do it right, to grow a marriage, you have to be on at all times. Like, if you, what I call flesh out, if you come home and you're just like, oh, I'm just like ready to, you've gone through your day, you had a hard day at work or whatever, and you come home and you just want to like flesh out and just like not be aware of people, not prefer people, just like cater to yourself. That's what every human wants to do when they get home in their safe place. Like, that is what can lead to so much chaos at home, is both people thinking about themselves. And it is so dang hard to come home and you've got to like flip the script, man. You got to be like, okay, now the job begins. I've got to be the husband I need to be for my wife. I've got to be the wife I need to be for my husband. I got to be the father I need to be for my kids. Like, it is work till you, like, from when you wake up to when you go to bed. And that's how you develop.
And sometimes even while you're sleeping, because some people snore. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in there. I'm sorry.
Okay, there are 2 types of people. And those that snore.
Sometimes it's work even while you're trying to sleep. You're forgiving your husband for waking you up.
Those that snore and steal their wives' prescription sleeping pills so he can get some sleep, and then make him snore like crazy. And then
may or may not have happened last night.
Those that let their husbands hear about it in the next morning and blame it on them.
Well, who else am I going to blame it on?
That did have it last night. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
It's fine. I kept just nudging you over.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then, so it's work. But it is better than I imagined. And I think just having a soulmate like got redefined for me in these 14 years. It's like, it's not just somebody that you enjoy being with 24/7. Like, your soulmate, your spouse is somebody that sharpens you. It's that iron sharpening iron. It's the growth process you have to go through personally to become the person you need to be for your spouse. And it's better because there's so much joy when you have miles under your shoes. You know what I'm saying? And like, we've been through so much together and worked through so much, not just as a couple, but individually, that we would never have been able to if we weren't together.
That's true. All right. Number 6, the D word is not allowed.
True.
The D word is lesson. Divorce. We do not say that word.
Never.
We've
never have.
Never have.
Yep.
We would never say that. And that was just a boundary that we created at the very beginning of our marriage. And I think it has just created a really safe space for us, that no matter how hard things got, no matter how difficult, we never questioned whether the other person was committed.
Yeah.
Because I think when you unleash that, and if you already have, you can take steps to take it back and put the boundary back down. It allows, it gives you that place of safety to know we are going to work this out. It's not an option. Divorce is not an option for us. And it has been, I think for me, just a really like a big safety net for just knowing like, okay, Ben is going to be committed to me even when I'm being difficult, because sometimes I'm difficult. Yeah. And that unconditional love is, I mean, if you don't have it in a marriage, if you don't know that you're going to be unconditionally loved, that's just so powerful. And I think when you use words like divorce, it just wears that out. It wears it down. So
the reason I love marriage is because it's like, it's all in. Mm-hmm. It's all in. It's like when you get on a plane, you don't get on the plane and you take off and get up 30,000 feet and start thinking, what's my plan of action in case this doesn't work out? There is no plan of action. The plane goes down, you die. And so when people are scared of commitment and they ask, well, what about this, and this? And what if he cheats on me? And what if this it's like, we're all in. And it's like, if the thing goes down, it's going down. But I don't sit here and think about my plan of action in case what. He's like, we just never went there. And I was all in for you and you were all in for me. And so those kind of thoughts and questions and threats, that is like never played a role inside of, now, like I said earlier in the podcast, like, were there times where we were really discouraged? Were there times where it was like, we needed some space and we're like depressed, like, oh my gosh, like how are we going to get through this? I feel trapped. Of course you do.
Absolutely.
But there was never a point where we were just like, oh, where's the back door? Like it was just never a consideration.
My number 7, I'm just going to say it and then I'll explain it. Leadership in the home by the husband does not mean the woman is devalued. So I think one of the main things that I had to learn was that leadership means sacrifice. It does not mean do as I say or else.
Authoritarian command.
It's not that. And the Bible is actually super clear about it, that the husband is the head of the home as Christ is head of the church. And what did Christ do for the church? He laid down his life. And so when I, as an independent woman, independent woman, I was kind of like, I don't really know how that works. And I was kind of curious. And, I had a lot of conversations, of course, before we got married about it. But what I have seen is truly that in action, where I do not feel devalued. In fact, actually, I feel incredibly valued, because of what I see is Ben laying his life down, like he talked about earlier, preferring me, laying his life down. He's always the first one to sacrifice. If there's a sacrifice to be made, I mean, I've sacrificed a lot too, but Ben sacrifices at least equally, if not more. And that really is the essence of leadership inside of the home. And so that was a big lesson for me that I learned, that I've gotten to see in action. And it has given me such a understanding of God's love and true, because I've watched Ben sacrifice when it hurt, when it was hard. And I think that has given me, just such a beautiful perspective of what it means to truly love someone. Because love is sacrificial. It's not you got 1 Corinthians 13. I mean, love is patient. It's kind. It doesn't think of yourself. It thinks of others. And I think that when you see that modeled, a lot of people think of, head of the home or leadership is like something that's just, it's what it's not. And I mean, it is there. Absolutely. In some circles and in some marriages, there is that kind of perspective. But in our home and in our marriage, no, it's not like that.
Yeah, I mean, biblical manhood has completely been perverted because people, they just look at the extremes. It's like they think, okay, if the husband's the leader, the head of the home, that must mean abuse and authoritarian control. And
he makes all the rules.
It's like, that is not
ridiculous.
Like that is not what leadership.
Go read the Bible.
Leadership equals responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I am responsible for things. Like the buck stops with me. That's the way that our home operates. It's like, if anybody is going to be blamed for anything, it's going to be me. And that shift requires me to carry myself a certain way in how I think about you and the girls. It's like any organization of humans, like does not function well when there's like co-equal. And that's the thing. It's even hard to talk about without it sounding, because people just don't like to talk about leadership.
Right.
But like, I never think, have I ever said to you like, I'm the man of the home and this is what we're going to, you know what I'm saying?
No.
It's like,
that's what I mean is I've never felt devalued. In fact,
Right.
you massively value my thoughts and my opinions. And there's been a lot of times when my thoughts and opinions are that's what we do.
And here's another thing, Jess. I mean, wouldn't you say like 99% of any decision we've ever made has been an equal decision?
No doubt.
This has led to you feeling safe, not just valued, like you're saying, which I love you talking about that, because you used to be like hardcore feminist.
Y'all, I was a very intense feminist. So if you knew me like, I don't know, 20 years ago.
I think
like,
what we both learned was the safety that you felt whenever you were able to say, hey, like, I really don't know about this thing. Like, I just want to like pass it off to you. And yeah, I think, and then there's been a lot of situations where it's like, I had to go do my homework. I had to go talk with people. I had to go carry the burden of something to move it forward inside of our home. And the thought of putting all that weight on you, it just is not fun.
No.
And it's like, and it's just the philosophy inside of our home. Like I've got to carry that hard stuff forward for our family, and that provides safety and security. It's not abuse and manipulation.
Well, and it provides support.
Yeah. That's a great topic. We could probably break down just
for sure.
the warped view of just leadership in this country and in the West is there's people with good intentions trying to wrong the rights of the past. There's for it.
Terrible leaders out
but
there.
When we're talking about a balanced family, like you have to have a mature view on things. Yeah. And we could go on forever, but this is just kind of
how another podcast episode for another
totally
day.
Is. I would say my last one, number 7, super simple. Putting marriage first. That's a lesson we've learned. And that it's like everything else has just had this nice ripple effect. When we put this relationship first, all the other relationships in our home function better.
Over our kids, correct?
That's what you're
saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's always been core to us. And even in the times that it was like our kids just filled up so much mental space, we never lost that priority, and that was important.
Yeah, that's true. This was a very packed episode of lots of tidbits. But
a lot of these could be their own episode, honestly.
They really could be. But it's our anniversary week, so we thought we would do something.
Yeah.
Just about marriage.
Hey, and a little plug for, if you've not heard of the 30-day challenge, go back to episode 2, listen to the 30-day challenge, do the challenge, and periodically we gift a couple with a little gift card, whoever does the challenge. So go ahead, look back at episode 2. And
it's a marriage challenge, and it
obviously
would really help you. It helped us.
Yeah, definitely. All right, take care.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. It would mean so much to us if you left a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you heard this.
And let us know your thoughts on today's episode by leaving a comment on Spotify or YouTube, where you can also watch these episodes.